Hi, everyone. My name is Gina. Welcome to part two of my Fodder School 4 hop video. Basically, a hop video is a series of videos put together around a theme by different artists that are on a playlist. And I've put a link to that playlist down below so that you can see how other artists interpret the projects in Fodder School. And if you don't know what Fodder School is, it's a year-long mixed media course that has a different instructor with a different project every single month. And you make different fodder every single month. And you have a lifetime access to this course. So there's no pressure to finish it the month that the project belongs in. For example, when I hit June this year, life went sideways, and my June, July, and August projects did not even get started to the very end of August. So if you're like me and life happens and it just goes sideways, it's okay to do it when you can and to do whatever you can, not to even worry about the perfection in any way, shape, or form, but just experiencing even just the joy of making the fodder. If you don't get to the project right away, you can always go back to it. And as I show you as I go along, there's some projects where I didn't go all out and fully decorate them, but I finished the project to the point where I felt like, okay, I showed up for this class, and I want to share that with you. And if you saw my Fodder School 4 first half YouTube hop video, you'll know that I had a color scheme. And that color scheme is here. And it's kind of, these are the colors that I decided to work in early on at the very beginning. As you walk through my projects, you'll see that I've stayed within this. And that is something new for me, to work within a color scheme like that. And I found that it was a lot of fun to take elements from maybe one project and bring a little bit of an element forward into another project. So there's a little bit of a thread going through my projects, where I might use fodder from a past project or a piece of paper and make fodder from it in a different project. So I kind of combined my elements, which I'll show you as I go along. And I found that I liked gold, metallic gold, and I've included that in every single project. And that has brought me a lot of joy. Again, something new. It just inspired me, and I followed that inspirational thread. So let's go ahead and jump in, and let me show you what I've been doing. So this is my Fodder School 4 notebook. And this Fodder School 2 hop starts in April. And our instructor was Tracy Wozniak. And we did a tag swap, and there were decoupage envelopes. Let me tell you, I've never done a fodder swap before, and I was obsessed. So here's what my project actually ended up looking like. Look how many tags I still have left. I went berserk. And so we used inks and pens and sprays, and we created these tags. These don't have the actual holes or the ribbons tied to them, but you get the idea of how we decorate it. So you can see the gold in that one. The water spots. I had some Lindy's Gang sprinkles that I used, and those created some really cool blendy effects. I used watercolors. I used pens. This is alcohol ink. This one, I found a butterfly wing in my backyard, and I used gel medium and attached it to this tag. So as you can see, I made a ton of tags. Now, I started out on paper, and then I attached them to cardstock so they'd be more stiff. But what I wanted to show you with this is I traded with this many people. And I didn't trade with as many as other people did, but we decorated our envelopes. I'm going to cover up the addresses here. We decorated the envelopes with different things, with rubber stamps, with napkins, with all kinds of things. But we traded not just tags, but some people sent me all kinds of ephemera. And you can see some of the tag things hanging out here. And we did this for a whole month. And I tell you what, I'm going to be doing an entire journal, and it's just going to be everything that I was sent here is going to be its own journal. I'm actually a bookmaker, so this is going to become its own book, and I'm so excited about it. So that was Tracy Wozniak's tags. But here's the thing, she had what you call, here's some extras I tucked in here. The Fodder Challenge, which is in October. When you buy Fodder School, you get the challenge with it. And so I did some of the challenges as we went along. And one of the Fodder School challenges was these mixed media mushrooms. And so I took some of my papers from the tags and I brought them forward and created mushrooms with them. Again, I went a little wild. I've got mushrooms upon mushrooms, but I took white pen and I drew around some of the dots. I took gold pen and I went around some of the dots. Some people did some amazing drawings on their mushrooms. I just jiggy-jagged with a gold pen around this splash. So I kept mine pretty simple, but how fun are these? I actually sent these out with my tag swaps. I had so many that I would send each person or most of the people a mushroom with the tag to kind of bulk up the trade. These made me so happy. You know, you see these patterns that the ink made and then taking a pen and drawing around them. It's seriously, this is how you end up with so much fodder during Fodder School, because you're so inspired, and she explains how to create this effect when you watercolor. So I did some practice in my book. This is my template that I used for the tags. And then Megan Quinlan did a Scrappy journal. This was so much fun. I took my hand dyed fabric and I made a tie. I made wax for the first time. I made wax seals. I made the seals ahead of time on a silicone mat, and then I would peel them up and I stuck them on with glue. But here are some watercolor flowers that I've made, and this is the fun little Scrappy journal. I just took tea bags. This was from earlier in the year. This little face was from a fodder challenge earlier in the year. Just fun. This is a sigil that we did with Jack Ravi. I brought that forward. These faces were from an earlier fodder project. Just, there's the mushroom. Just different fun things, photos, little drawings I've done on watercolor paper. Just a little pocket with scraps from different projects I've done throughout this year so far. So much fun. And I did 2 of those. Actually, I did 3. This is the other one. Creating the covers using washi tape. There's drawings, the sigil stamp again from Jack Ravi. Circles that we made in one of the projects. This was a drawing my daughter made, and I just made a photocopy of it and included it in here. These are strings that I just kind of hung on to, and I just glued them down. Circles that we did in another project. That's a jelly plate print, a drawing that I did. Some book pages that I did some, rubbing off of my brayer. Another old photo, hand-drawn watercolor flower. I mean, it's just the amount of fodder that you come up with and end up using. This is a quote I loved. Words do sound different in the air. I found that in a book. So this is just a fun little project and a great way to use up the fodder that you have. This was a sample that I just stuck in here, another one. These were, again, from another fodder project earlier in the year, doing these little faces. Very new for me, drawing faces. And the instructor made it so accomplishable, if that's a word. Did not feel quite as intimidated as I thought I would. So these were just a fun little Scrappy journal where you take bits and bobs that you have and you just trust the process. I thought that's very appropriate. I've got I used a tag and I wrote a poem in there that I found. A butterfly, that was from another project. This here was an experiment that I saw someone do, and it's sticking, so I'm not sure if it was such a good experiment. Oh, it's a piece. That's right. So this is one of the tea bags from earlier on, and I used gel medium and encased it and kind of made this see-through, almost like a plastic feeling. Another photo. So you can see how these things are so much fun to make, and you can just keep going and going and going. And the making of the fodder is really addicting, to be completely honest. You'd be surprised how much fodder you end up with. Then in June, Stephanie Lee, we did a collage box with encaustic wax medium. Now, let me tell you, this was a whole new experience for me. So here is my box. My box is a cigar box that I found in an antique store, and I loved it, and I hung on to it. But I've never worked with encaustic wax before, and beneath it, I have papers that this is a photocopy of a flower, and then this is some papers that I painted on deli paper. This is I don't know, it's a scene of a tree that I just loved. And I have bits of old paper, some gold. I don't know if you can see the gold in there. That's tissue paper with gold on it. So the encaustic wax was such a unique experience for me. I have no idea if I did it right. And I think that's the point. It doesn't have to be done right. Now I have this beautiful box and it feels good. And apparently the wax cures over time. So this encaustic wax medium was a lot of fun. And the one thing I wanted to share about this is I didn't spend a lot of money investing in a bunch of things to use it for. I bought the wax, obviously, in the smallest bag that I could, which I think was a pound. And my mom had one of those hot plates for your coffee mug. I can't remember what it's called, but you're supposed to put your mug on it and it keeps your coffee warm all day. I took and bought a little Pyrex bowl, not that deep. And my mom said, try this coffee mug warmer. So I was like, great. So I put the Pyrex on it. I put the encaustic wax in it. And sure enough, it got to a perfect temperature. And I used a brush to put this on. And so basically I just put a little bit in a Pyrex dish on a mug warmer. And I didn't buy a bunch of things for it because I had no idea if I was going to use it again. Now, I thought that I put a gold trim around this that seems to have disappeared. So I'm not sure if the wax absorbed it, if it was the wrong kind of product. I'm not exactly sure. But this is what I want to encourage you in. This is something that was completely out of my knowledge base, my experience base as an artist. I've been an artist for years. I've used different mediums, but I've never used the wax. And I can't tell you much about it, but from what I understand, it can be mixed with paint and you can do textural painting with encaustic wax. So if that's something you're interested in, very fascinating. But this was my box. I'm proud of myself for doing something out of the ordinary. And so I would really encourage you to just go for it with these things. Why not? What's the worst thing? These are some of the papers that you can see the gold elements. This is, what do you call it? Pattern paper that I put gesso on. So it's got some texture. July, Rebecca Chapman. She did a concertina book. Now, this is about the time it took me the box and this journal and the next one project I all did at the very, very end of August. June and July were gone because my mom went into the hospital twice and I had so many doctor's appointments and labs. So life happened, but I was able to make the effort as time went. So I did little bitty bits, literally little bitty bits. And that's what I want to encourage you about Fodder School. You don't have to do it all. If you can, great. If you can do part of it, great. This is going to be what I would consider part. It's mostly done, but not nearly as extravagantly decorated as most people did, because I just wanted to, for my own joy, just do my best. And this happens to be my best. And this season, that I'm in right now. So when I do say that you don't have to have the pressure to finish everything, you don't, because this right here is my best. So in this particular one, we took photocopies of some pictures. We took pictures that you just go down to Walgreens or wherever and get them printed, and we painted on them. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So this is my little concertina. We painted on photographs and we used them as stamps. So we painted on them and then stamped them. So this is a stamp that I painted on a photograph, not these, but another photograph, and stamped it onto paper. And it was so beautiful. And there's mark making. This was also a photo. I think it was this photo. Yeah. Can you see I painted on it really quickly and then stamped it, rubbed it down on the paper, and I got this beautiful image. And I love how expressive it is. This is that. Can you see it? I painted this and stamped it, but I love the way it looked when it got all painted. So it's just a photograph that we painted on, and I loved it. There's another copy of it. This is also stamped with this is stamped with a photo. This is stamped with a photo. Such a fun technique. This is stamped with this photo. So you can just kind of see it. I did some mark making. I used some papers from other projects. This was from the Scrappy journal. This is another stamp. This is papers from my tags. This is one of the photos here. This is a piece of paper from my tags. So you can see that everything's reusable, and you just take a regular photo and we painted on it. There's one of the other ones. And these were ones that I wanted to use. But again, like I said, I was in a season of my life where I just couldn't do it all. So I did what I could. And that journal is not as extravagantly decorated, like I said, but it's done. And I'm satisfied with learning the technique of using these photos as a stamp and doing some of these fun things that I never thought of doing. And I'm kind of obsessed. And I actually like how the photos look after they're all painted up. I really love that texture. Now, August was Carrie Smith, and it was called Beauty in Circles. We did greeting cards. This one, let me tell you, I have so many circles, I can't even. So fun. So I even have, she had us using a hole punch. I even have, look at all these itty bitty circles. And we have tiny circles. I did go get a smaller hole punch, but I did hand cut some. The perfect ones are obviously not the ones I cut. Some of them I even let be imperfect. I had some cast off papers that I ended up using. I tried printing from my gel plate and that's what this is. This is gel plate printing. And note to self, if you put plastic on your gel plate, like I didn't realize there was saran wrap, it left this texture. Do you see that crackle texture? That is now permanently on my gel plate. But we did fun swirls. We did, I mean, seriously, so addicting. And then we decorated the circles all different ways. We stacked the circles. We drew on the circles because this is 3 circles. It's a big one, a medium one, and a hole punch. Big one, medium, hole punch. So, I mean, seriously, look, there's so many. I can't, these are the decorated ones. I wanted them separate from the undecorated ones. And here's the outcome of what I did. I only made 6 cards. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's like I did not have the bandwidth with my mom being hospitalized twice between June and July to really, I may have had the time, but I didn't have the bandwidth, and that's okay. So this is what I created in that window when I had the energy. I made a pair of purple cards, and I decided to get the scalloped cards. I thought they were kind of pretty. And so the flap matches the card. Do you see that crackle effect? Yeah, that's saran wrap that I didn't know was sitting on my gel plate. and I'm kind of obsessed with it, believe it or not. Then here's a color combination that is not my norm. This orange, this kind of yellow and hot pink, peachy, but I used a whole bunch of circles on these, and I used the gold pen. I brought in as much gold as I could, and I don't know. Like I said, it's not necessarily the color combo that I would choose, but you know what? I loved the outcome. Then I decided to go with cookie cutters to decorate my gel plate. And this was the background I got. And then these were the dots that I used. And I did a lot of drawing and dotting. I bought Wendy was showing her Gravy alcohol markers, and I finally broke down and bought them, and that's what I used because I bought them in August because I saw her using them, and I was doing these cards, and I was trying to figure out all these dots and wiggles and whatnot, the easiest way to do it, and I bought the pens and love them, love them. So I jokingly posted on Instagram to Wendy that Wendy made me do it. And there's some circles. I try to keep samples in this book so that I remember not just with words, but what I did with them. And I'll probably need to put a decorated one in there. But the last one of this year was by Amanda Trout, and they were tapestries. This one was really a fun way of using your leftover fabric, for example. If you have bits, I've quilted in the past and done sewing. And so I have lots of fabric. And so I did not have to, I even had some tapestry bits and some upholstery fabric that I'd forgotten that I had. And I ended up using that in this project. And this past weekend, before I made this video, I was working on all the hand stitching, and I had forgotten how pleasant it is to sit and hand stitch and how meditative it is. So let me show you what I worked on. So this is, I'm going to close this now and move it because this is kind of big. This is on a piece of, it's like a sofa fabric. And I have some lace trim. This is a stamp that I got, is a series of stamps, and I'll show you those in just a second. I put them to the side here so you can see them. So I based, not stamps, I'm sorry, stencils. So I got these women's stencils that I was kind of obsessed with, and I used them in this particular project because and I used the distress inks to do it. That's what that is. And so I wanted to create something floral, so I made this stamp myself, and then I did the stencil here, and I wrote on the fabric here. I used different types of embroidery, and it just ended up being really, really happy with how this looked. And then my daughter had cut up a canvas that she painted on, and I found it. And so I took it. I've pinned this here because I haven't decided if I want it there, but let me show you how it looks. So this is a painted canvas as a background. And this fabric I watercolored. I sprayed the fabric down, and I just took my Dr. P.H. Martin's and I just drug it around to get these really loose flowers and leaves. And then I splashed a different color around. And then I went ahead and defined it with embroidery thread. And I just thought it was such a fun thing to do. So satisfying to see it come together, and to not worry about the imperfection of the stitches and how they're not, not everything is perfect. I may go back and add with the acrylic markers. I might go back and add some details on these other leaves. I may not. This is art in a nutshell, isn't it? And here's some other ideas. This is a stamp from early on in our Fodder School year this year. I made this stamp with a bamboo, I think it was like a soap dish. And then I stamped it on here with the distress inks. And then I don't know if you can see, I've stitched this whole pattern. Here's a cluster that I was working on. I hadn't decided. There's my sigil again. This is jelly plate printed. This is a stamp I created. This is the acrylic markers. Again, here's the sigil. And I made this heart stamp. This is jelly plate printed. There are purple hearts under there. And I just took a nice contrasting fabric. Everything's sewn together nicely here. This is another one that I'm trying to decide the composition on. You can kind of see the purple hearts now. But this is another one of those ladies in the stamp. I'm sorry, stencil. I just love the way this turned out. Another one with the ladies. So and this is a rubber stamp. This is a homemade stamp. This is a stencil. This is old quilt fabric that I'm still in love with. It still makes me happy. These are two more stamps that I've created. And so basically this has stencils, acrylic markers. It has a stamp that I created. It has all kinds of watercolor that's on wet fabric so it bleeds. And I have another black marker that I did some dots with. This was Amanda had us playing with just writing and drawing and doodling all over fabric. So this is with those acrylic markers I was telling you about. This is very outside of my comfort zone to do all of this drawing like that. This is from Jack Robbie's project, and then I brought it forward and I did some drawing on it and some stamping. Again, my stamping, this was from Jack Robbie's. I pulled it out and I just sewed through it. I mean, I made so much fodder for this, and I don't have it here because I didn't want to be going on and on and on, but I wanted you to see how I experienced it and how I try to incorporate different things from different parts of the year. So I'm constantly revisiting the fodder that I've done in the past and making stamps. Sorry, I dropped something here. So here's my sigil stamps. There's another one, but I don't know what to do with it. There's I just made a bunch of stamps so that I could, create the textures that I wanted to create. Because in the moment, because my time was so disrupted, I needed to work with what I had. And so I created these stamps. These were just the outside parts of these. This was so that I had something botanical. These were leftover chunks I didn't want to throw away. The hearts, I used a cookie cutter to press the shape in so I could get them nicely shaped. These were just because I see other people with the plus signs and I kind of fell in love with them. These are wonky circles. There's so many ways in Fodder School that I have been inspired to create and go beyond the project even to have texture and joy in the process of creating. And you just end up with all of these amazing things. I mean, because I'm a bookmaker and a junk journaler, I've got all of this fodder that I can now use. And look at it all. It's just so much fun, so much joy. And I really would like to encourage you to consider, I am not an affiliate, but if you are creatively curious and you want to have some inspiration in your life and you want to create something, but you're not sure what you want to create, and you want to even dip your toe into mixed media, look at all the ways that it's been done. And this is only half of the year. Like I said, you can go to the YouTube, to Willow Wander's YouTube channel and see the Fodder School Hop videos from all the years. This is year 4. Every year, different instructors and projects. And every year, something inspiring and wonderful. There's something for everyone, and it's so worth the time. So affordable, so inspirational. I want to thank you for watching this YouTube hop, and I hope you've been inspired to take what you have, because a lot of these things, I didn't go out and buy anything new. I just reused and incorporated things from the past to bring them forward into these other projects, so that I had this wonderful experience of creating a holistic fodder projects, so that they were kind of tied in together. Every once in a while, there's a little bit of something from each project before, and it's just slowly woven together. So I hope you've enjoyed this YouTube hop video. I really want to thank you for taking the time to watch it. I'd love your comments on what inspired you and what you're doing in your creative journey as well. And like I said, all those links will be below to the YouTube hop videos and anything else that I mentioned. Thank you again, friends, for being here with me. And I'm happy creating, my friends.